Welcome to Generation Movies on a Friday afternoon. As you're I don't know that you guys are going to be doing a lot in northeastern Pennsylvania, but wherever else you are and you're thinking about going to the movies this weekend, just coming on a Friday afternoon like I used to back home and give us some movie reviews or movie clips of what might be out there for people to go see or might be thinking about going to see. So we're going to get it off the bat. And I think I might have a guess for later, which is super fetch, but neither movie is quite fetch. So we're going to talk about both movies right now, but let's get to it. And the first thing we're going to discuss is a movie that opened yesterday. It's called I.S.S. It is a thriller. It is set on the International Space Station. It is, it is a concept of something that could be a reality, although we hope not. And when we had talked about this on Generation Movie, Loud and Nerdy, my two podcasts, the idea of this movie might be a little bit too close to home for people right now. So basically, two American astronauts get put up on the Soyuz rocket. They get put up onto the International Space Station. They join another American crew member there and three Russian crew members. And everything is great for the first 20 minutes. It's a very short movie. It's an hour and 35 minutes. So not a lot of time. It could either be viewed as efficient or not enough time. And I'm going to view it as not enough time for the purposes of this review. But basically, they get up to the International Space Station. Of course, Ariana DeBose is starring as Dr. Kira Foster. She's joined by Chris Messina, who's playing Captain Gordon Bennett, Paula Asbach, Costa Ronan, Mira Mashkava, and John Gallagher are all in the film. Which is directed by Gabriella Copperthwaite, I should say. And basically what it is they get on the International Space Station and all hell breaks loose on Earth. And there's a war between Russia and America on Earth where nuclear arms are used. And so basically, I don't want to give anything away for people who do want to see it. It's a really interesting concept, the idea that our scientists and our astronauts are they're dealing with other countries and other places at all times. The International Space Station is a place where Russia and America works every day together and doesn't kill each other. So the concept of being in an enclosed space and what happens when your country says, we need to take this place by any means necessary. And that's where most of the thriller and the action and the drama come from. The problem with the movie, it's twofold. They throw in a red herring at the end of why they need the International Space Station, not that it's just an amazing piece of property. And I don't want to give any of that away, but it's just, there's not enough time with the actors. There's not enough time for when the bonds start to break down for it to be super meaningful. And you got a lot of game actors here. Messina's really good. And Ariana DeBose is coming off her Academy Award winning win for West Side Story. And John Gallagher's been in a lot of stuff recently. And all of the Russian actors are fantastic. It's just, they don't have a lot of time. Because the movie's only an hour and a half, it's trying to get into big subjects. Like and one of the concepts is, mice get put into space. They kind of kill each other when they're in an enclosed space and they don't know what they're doing. And so it's a big concept of whether or not our higher working minds, our scientists, our astronauts, our people in charge, if they can work together at a time when things are split apart. And it's got bigger themes going on than what an hour and 35-minute movie, gives you. It's got a little bit of violence. It's got some language, of course. But it doesn't meet the criteria of being an exceptional movie a la Gravity, which also had a very short running time. So it kind of just, they add a big secret. They add all kinds of weird things. And, the fights are a little bit weird. The CGI is off in some sequences. Like, So it's not a huge budgeted film, and it's a very big topic, and it probably should be about a 3-hour movie where you get an hour with the astronauts and then watching them break down as things start to happen. And so maybe more time would have been better. It's like a stew where the meat isn't quite done yet. Like the meat's still chewy, it's not soft. And so like when people start making rash decisions, it doesn't have quite the weight it should. And also the theoretical decisions they're talking about, like, one of the first things one of the characters say, the Russian Nika, the Russian scientist, says, "Up here, there's no politics." And I guess the concept might be that once politics gets thrown in, everything goes out the window. But it would have been better as more of a gradual thing. So ISS is a slight miss for me. It also gets negative marks for the ending, which is just there. And as I told my good buddy Rich Trees from Generation Movie and Film Buff Online, there were illicit whats in the crowd. Like, that's where they're ending? Like, Jesus. It's just a weird place for it to end, and it's got great actors in it. It's got a great concept. But the actual putting everything together and making it work without a marinade, it kind of just, it's like a meal that is underdone just a little bit, because you don't have time she's brand new to the rocket when she gets there. And so when the fighting breaks out, like, you're supposed to, I guess, side with her or be with her, and everybody's making rash decisions left and right. So it's like, I don't know. It's one of those thrillers. It's like the opposite of Gravity, if you're thinking about it. Let me see what we got in the comments section. Good afternoon, Joe. Good afternoon, Joe. Thank you for coming. But yeah, so slight miss. If you do like space movies, it's an hour and a half in January that you're gonna walk out of it and think about whatever else you're thinking about going to see next week or waiting for Argyle in February. Is where we're at right now in January. But it's an okay movie. Slight miss for me. It doesn't really, all of the big theoreticals and all of the big ideas it has, just fade away the moment anything starts. And so you don't have anybody gradually breaking down and like all those movies we used to watch, like 2001, or where, space travel and being in space is so unnerving and so gets you to the brink where anything you do could cause your death. It just doesn't have enough drama in it and enough time with the characters to care about who lives and who dies, to care about what's going on. And then they throw MacGuffin in late and you're just like, oh, okay. So it's not just for strategic space. Okay. And, and the idea, everything that these people have represented goes right out the window because we're in an hour and a half thriller where, somebody's got to win. You know what I mean? So it's great concept, great theoreticals, good actors, mediocre outcome. So I do want to say Ariana DeBose, fantastic young actress, one of our best and brightest. And these are the nice Russian people who are welcoming. Everybody's welcoming in the first 10 minutes. And then all hell breaks loose. And everybody does everything opposite of what they've already said or done. So it's one of those movies where it's just kind of crushes under its own weight. Now, I'm going to review another movie really quick. We got a good 10 minutes out of ISS. Again, it's like a Gravity clone. It's January. Not a lot of movies out there except for movies that have been out for a while. If you're looking for a little bit of action, it's fast. It's an hour and a half. It'll get you out quick. But I don't necessarily, the ending was mind-blowing, that it doesn't really fix, answer, nothing. It just kind of ends, and that's it. But I am going to review another movie that is making waves right now, and that movie is this movie, Mean Girls. And look at that. I have a fellow Mean Girls fan, and look at who it is. Rich Dries,
Hey,
ladies and
everybody.
gentlemen.
I was just about to get up to get a prop. Hold on.
Get your prop. I'm sorry, I'll take you out. You're out. And then you'll be back. But Mean Girls is the other movie we're going to view today. Mean Girls, of course, having a huge box office run right now, already at 44 million worldwide. So let's see if Rich is back with his prop. And he is. There he is. Rich Dries, ladies and gentlemen.
Before we start, because spoiler, I was not really enraptured with this movie. But before we start, before anybody says, well, you just didn't like the original or whatever, I'm a big Saturday Night Live fan, big Tina Fey fan. I think her work on 30 Rock is great. I think some of the other things that she's produced, like Girls Five Eva, which, again, is also a musical, is just hilarious and wonderful. And I think the original Mean Girls with Lindsay Lohan is great, and it's probably one of Lohan's best performances. And I own it on DVD, signed by Miss Tina Fey herself. So I just want to put all of that out there as I say,
before you rip this movie to shreds. Okay, so
yeah,
what I would
kind of disappointed with this.
Okay, so I'm gonna, my review is, we were talking about this, but I think what I'm gonna say is part of the problem is that the original Mean Girls is so good. Like, we forget that in 2004, it took the world by storm. It started out small and just kind of grew. It was one of those movies with legs, as they used to say in the business. I think the interesting thing here is, everybody says, why a remake? Well, it's not really a remake. It is an adaptation of the musical that Tina Fey put on Broadway herself. So everything here is Fey kind of bringing it forward to the next generation of Mean Girls. The problem I was telling you last night is this generation, while they have their Carruthers and while they have their problems, aren't particularly mean. Like, we're very much dealing with a generation that's inclusionary, that tries to understand each other, that has, safe spaces, that does all these things. So when you say Mean Girls and a musical and all those things, I'm expecting it to be as cold, vicious as the first movie is. And that's one of my problems. Another problem, and we'll show some pictures here. These are the new Mean Girls. And All for One in this picture is better than her original counterpart. So, I mean, when you talk about the original, you're talking about Lohan, Amanda Seyfried, who's become a major actress. You have Rachel McAdams. You have Lacey Chabert. You have all these people, and you have Lindsay Lohan. And part of my problem with this movie is the cast, except for a rare few. Lizzie Kaplan, trading Lizzie Kaplan for Aluli Carvalho is definitely an upgrade. She's definitely an upgrade. She's the best thing about the movie, except for maybe Renee Rapp, who plays the new Regina George. And I wanted to love it, right? I go in, I've seen the original, I like the original. I just, like, part of my problem is that the Mean Girl, like, the plastics in this one aren't quite as good. And I think Amanda Seyfried played the perfect dumb blonde. I mean, we're talking Judy Holliday level dumb blonde in the original. You know what I mean? Like, just goofy and just nice and just dumb and just, amazing. And I think one of the things that goes on with this movie is, the musical style is all over the place. It's very much Dear Evan Hansen. It's a mixture of all these different styles, right? So you have big, huge musical numbers, and then you have, numbers that are like rock musical Tommy Who opera stuff. You know what I mean?
For me, I found the musical numbers very inconsistent. Some of the songs are staged fantastically. I really liked the Sexy Halloween costume song. just because it reminded me of a discussion that I had online years ago with friends where
It's
we just
funny.
listed. Yeah,
It's also
funny.
it's also
like,
it's hysterically funny.
There's like a couple of songs like where the interior of the school gets magically transformed into like these bright yellows and
Revenge
greens.
Party.
Like
That's Revenge Party.
Which I will say though, it does have a little bit of the same melodic line as Me Party from the Muppets.
Well, like Regina George's stuff. I was thinking about it today. I was trying to come up with that song where she's, I'm Regina George and she's singing, and then I found it. It's Moulin Rouge. It's Moulin Rouge.
Okay.
Right. So it's an amalgam of all these different musical bases and styles, and it's staged. I will say to you, I think there's the interesting concept is that the musical numbers are either complete fantasies, right? They're complete bonkers, like almost get hit by a bus fantasies, or they're kind of like characters that kind of like are jumping into themselves or what they're thinking. They're never.
I don't have a problem with that. I just think
I think it's a good concept.
Staged. For example,
film
opens with what looks to be like a cell phone, recording a selfie movie or what have you. And it's got the horizontal thing. We have two characters who are talking about this, and then they kind of like move back. They're in a garage. The garage door opens up onto a beautiful African veld where Katie and her mom are, and the camera kind of goes out, of that, out of that framing of a cell phone, through the garage door into the veld, comes down, finds her, pans around her as she is singing, and there's one cut to her mom that moves back to her, and then they keep staying on her while she goes back into the tent, and then she goes through the outer flaps of the tent, and she's standing in front of the school, and it's all one shot, but interrupted by like one or two short edits right there in the middle. And I was like, guys, if you had just kept that whole one shot thing going, I would have felt a lot more connected to this beginning sequence. But as I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm really enjoying how they're doing it. It's
all over the place.
Well, then it was a cut and a cut, and then back to what you were doing. And so I kind of have to wonder, was like, did they clip out a moment there and think, well, we have to.
And here's maybe why. I think that's one of the biggest things, right? Yeah. Angourie Rice is a great young actress. She's been in a lot of stuff. She's in Marvel things. She's all over the place. She's great. I don't know that she has the chops to be a lead in a musical. Now, Renee Rapp, who's playing Regina George, she is from the Broadway musical. She's from the original Broadway cast. So she comes in and she's like banging out things. Angourie Rice is not necessarily the best singer, and I guess they kind of play it in the character as she evolves, because she does get better at singing as the movie progresses for some odd reason. And then it's I look at that and I go, it's a miss for me. Like Lohan versus
definitely overpowers
everyone. All the other except for Luli Cravalho. Right? She is absolutely stunning, like amazing as Janice. In the original movie, Janice is played by Lizzie Kaplan. Here, she's played by, and that's one thing that I don't want people to get their panties in a bunch before they go. It is more leaning into queer positive territory. While things that were hinted at in the first Mean Girls, and I'll let you know, kids, it's there in the original. You just have to pay attention. And so it does lean a little bit heavily into that, and that's a good thing. Like, representation matters, and the idea that these characters that have become queer icons, Regina George among them, is a queer icon. Especially when you think about her track in the original movie, she goes from hating Katie, hating the boyfriend, and then back. And the last scene we see of her in the original movie is her becoming a member of a field hockey team where she can hit and hang out with other girls that are hitters too. So she's always been a queer icon, and now she gets a full, the way she's played by Regina Rapp is not Regina Rapp, Renee Rapp is, it's definitely on the line. But the Aluli Cravalho character, Janice, playing Janice as queer positive, is fantastic. She steals every scene she's in. I don't know if it's her and Renee Rapp are the only two that are like, when their energies are close, it's like like everything bubbles in the movie. When they're not there, it sinks, right? And it's like any musical that has a great lead that if it's not there the entire time, it's whatever. Stuff is staged fine. It has the same, essential beats and notes of the original movie about a burn book, and essentially we need to be less mean to one another. Maybe if we can be better, we can make make friends and everybody can be happy, kind of thing. So it's got a great positive message. One of the things I said to you, and I think that's interesting to me, is that the mean girls in this one are not nearly as mean as the girls in the original, right? They're not. Regina George in the original is although I think this Regina George is much scarier on a much higher level with how she's played. She is played as a femme fatale kind of for everyone, not just for Katie, but for everyone. It's not a miss. It's just not a movie I would run out to see again. For me, it's a movie that I think my wife will end up watching and loving and laughing and enjoying it, and just trying to remember the original and be like, although they changed that, and like that'll be the discussion when you watch it. Is if you're a Mean Girls fan, things they change, and it's not a lot, to be honest. It's really not a lot. Again, Tina Fey is in it. So is Tim Meadows.
If you're looking to see a movie in theaters right now, you're probably better off with Wonka than this. To be honest. They have.
Well, Wonka, if you want a musical that's charming and lighthearted, if you're looking for like a balls to the wall comedy, I would say Poor Things. A lot of nudity. I'm warning you before you go in. But it's great and it's genius. It's just one of those movies. I was looking at the box office returns that I thought was interesting, and first off, budget on this one is about $36 million, and it looks good. It looks well shot, and it's well directed for a teen movie. You know what I mean? $36 million is a lot of money for a teen comedy right now. That's a ton of money. The original only spent 18 at the time, and the original just for looking,
million.
145 worldwide.
Was it 145?
Well, yeah, 130 worldwide, and then adjusted the domestic gross is 145. I don't think it's going to get there. I do think it could be the kind of thing where you go and you see it with, a bunch of if lady friends. I could see a bunch of girlfriends going and really enjoying it, but being kind of like maybe walking out going, "This isn't my Mean Girls," and then the cameos that occur late, again, not giving anything away, but the cameos again, took me out of it a little bit because I was kind of hoping they would at least reference the cameo. There's a major cameo, and they don't reference Katie reacting to the cameo or the cameo reacting to Katie. I mean, there's one thing said, and then it kind of just it blows away. You know what I mean? Like
point of very meta humor, but that's it. And they don't kind of like continue with that or follow up. And I'm like, you could have cut that. I mean, it's a cute joke, but if you're going to be meta about it, then be meta about it. One offhand reference and then traipsing along with what you're doing.
I do also want to give a shout out to Jaquel Spivey as Damien. I think Damien and Janice, that is one thing that is a major change. Damien and Janice are the narrators of the movie, and they come in and out at will, as characters at will. and are doing. They can do whatever they want, and I think that's a really interesting choice on where to put them, because they start off as, this is a public service announcement, it's a message, it's a warning. Don't do these things to your friends. Don't be a bad friend. Be a good friend. I like that, and I did like the interesting energy of like a lot of the movie taking place in a garage, and the garage goes up and down, and you either go in and you're in the school, or you go out and you're out of the school. Like, I think it's interesting.
Like a very stage-like idea that I think translated well for the most part. On stage,
probably on stage, but it works. It works here too. I think that's one of the interesting things about it, is that it's not a musical. It's not like Chicago, where everything is staged and everything is intricate, and it's more like mind's eye. Everything is in the character's mind's eye, and you do get sequences where characters are reacting to the characters that are in mid-song, looking at them like, what the fuck is going on over there? And that's okay too.
And there's occasional acknowledgments that there are musicians like right off screen playing.
Yeah, shut up. Yeah, shut up. We're trying to talk here. Shush. Mm-hmm. We're trying to talk. I like all that. I think that's when you can play with the basic concept that musicals are inherently mind's eye, interpretations of what's happening. The characters singing, not necessarily in front of everybody, but in their heads, and they come out of their heads. Mm-hmm. I also think it is a really stagey thing that works on stage. The idea that you watch a musical like Dear Evan Hansen, where the characters step forth into the light and then they're singing, and then they go back, right? It's very stagey in that regard. Busy Phillips is also here. There's a lot of people in it. I thought
she was very over the top. I thought her performance could have been
not particularly funny. Not great. No. Like not in a. I think she's misused. She's mishandled. You know what I mean? Like, but John Hamm also has a really underrated. Like, his thing is really like he's doing a favor for Tina Fey,
which is fine. But he's perfect here. He comes in, he gets a couple of good zingers off, and they cut to him, at certain strategic points just for a quick line or two, and then they're back out. He probably filmed that in a day, and I think
not a lot of time. I think the interesting thing here is
if it took longer than a day to film him out. Call me, because I'll make sure your sets run on schedule.
Too cool. Hi, Rich. Yeah, we brought Rich in. It's always good to have both of us, the chubby one and the thin one, talking about movies. It's like it was meant to be somewhere, or in the past, like it's a homage almost. But yeah, it's definitely, if you're looking at movies this week, can we do side thumbs? If I'm looking between...
What's the line from Robert Townsend's Hollywood Shuffle? We gave this movie the finger.
Yeah, that's I.S.S. for me. Like, this week, I.S.S. gets the finger. Just because it's an hour and 35 minutes, Rich, and it's like, this is such an important topic of, can humans get together? And actually, both of the movies I went to see last night, it's funny, I'm building these weird double feature Thursdays where I'm going and watching weird conjecture like movies together. But this one, Mean Girls and I.S.S. aren't that far apart. Let's just try to get along, and high school can be viewed as a really combustible place to live. You know what I mean? So, but I.S.S. it misses. It's trying to be Gravity. Right? Gravity was short, succinct, to the point, one character going from point A to point B. But the idea that you're putting all these characters together and you don't have enough time, like, the whole point is watching the characters melt down, right? Mm-hmm. And if you don't have time to watch them interact and be peaceful and work together, and then the rivets start coming out of the metal, it doesn't work. It needs to be a longer movie. It needs an ending. It needs, like, for all these things, these big huge concepts you're putting out there, you need an ending. You need an ending that, you know, maybe a little hopeful. Like I was telling, one of the things I said on Loud Nerdy about this movie and Civil War, which is coming out, sometimes movies come out in the wrong times because of the time it's coming out. Do you remember? I'll give you an example, and then I'll like I feel this movie and Civil War are the two movies this year where they're a little too close to what's actually going on in the world to be able to go, hey, I just want to go see 2 hours of a cool movie and a cool concept. It's not a cool concept if it's starting to happen. You know what I mean? So
it's not an allegory at that point.
Yes,
it's not a warning.
Yeah, it's not a warning, or it's not a hey, we can fuck this up.
Where you're so obvious, you're kind of like looking at the director and going, no shit, Sherlock.
Yeah, we know things are problematic. And it reminds me a little bit, this movie and Civil War remind me a little bit. Remember when Idle Hands came out? The Devon Sawa movie, and it was about
years ago.
Yeah, but it came out. I ran a theater at the time. It came out the week Columbine happened.
Oh shit, that's right.
And so when it came out, suddenly the satire about friends killing each other in a high school isn't quite as funny.
Yeah. And remember too, the season finale for Buffy that year, I think that was season 3, involved Armin Shimmerman as the mayor turning into a giant snake during graduation to eat all the students. And so
wasn't Armin Shimmerman? Armin Shimmerman was the principal.
Oh, he was the principal. I'm sorry, but
the mayor, yes, the mayor was going through ascension. Yes.
Yeah. And so they armed all the students to shoot him, to shoot the giant snake thing. And,
yes, the prom. Yes, the prom.
And of course, kind of had to postpone that until late into the summer because of Columbine. Again, it was just one of those
sometimes
moments where it all syncs up in a very bad way.
And that's how I felt here. Like, there's not enough to it. Mean Girls is interesting. Like I said, there are pieces of it that I enjoyed more than the original. Like, I think Kaplan gets beat by Cravalho. I think while I love Rachel McAdams as Regina George, Renee Rapp as Regina George is so much more terrifying. But everybody else, is just paler in comparison. And so, not quite fetch. But if you love the first one, you might go. And that's the other thing I was telling Rich. And I'll talk to you guys right now before we leave, as we're hitting 34 minutes. And these are suddenly not mini reviews anymore. I will say to you, the other thing that came out of it, there are not a lot of hummable songs. There's nothing where I'm going to go, I need to hear that or sing that again, or, something that, there's no peaches here, kids. There's no peaches. No peaches at all. Like, so those are the mini reviews. Mild not likes for both. Well, major not like for I.S.S. because it's pretty much a failure of fixing all its components together. Mean Girls is a minor pass just because I don't think it's as good as the original, and I don't necessarily think that this generation needs a Mean Girls. Like, I think there's probably something else out there that they could have had that doesn't necessarily sync up with Tina Fey's vision of what everything is. Although that being said, if Tina Fey is going to be the head of SNL, yes. The answer on that one is yes. If Lorne Michaels steps away at the 50th anniversary show and they need a new leader at SNL and Tina Fey wants to do it, yes. That is... I think that's where we're headed. I think that's a great choice also because I think she's a genius. That's the other thing. I don't think the script is quite as sharp as the original. You know what I mean? Like
it feels blunted. It does feel I don't know if to make room for some of the songs, they had to take away some of the room that they had in there for the satire about high school living.
Or the meanness, or they don't quite put Regina through the paces in this one. Like, she gets there's 3 phases of the destruction in the original, and there are phases of the destruction here, but they're kind of short-lived, very quick. You know what I mean? Like, it goes by way too fast for how evil she's been as a character. So, slight miss for me. A big miss on ISS. And Rich, you got anyone you want to talk? I'm on Threads now. So JW the movie guy on Threads.
Do I get on another freaking? Oh boy.
I'm on Threads. I'm going to be honest. I'm on Threads for after midnight. Just easier on Threads.
How have you been enjoying that so far?
Okay, so last night's episode was absolutely bad shit because it was a weird coupling of people. Mm-hmm. I'm enjoying it. I think the Hardwick version, right? In my opinion, Hardwick was there to service the comics, right? He was a true host in the sense he's thrown out there. Tomlinson's a funny person on her own, right. And she wants some time. So if you're paying really close attention, all the stuff she's saying to me is like brilliant. She's really funny. And I think
got a couple of Netflix specials that are really good. I would recommend.
Right, not necessarily. They haven't found their grouping yet. They haven't found a masterful grouping yet. They are kind of just throwing people together. Like last night's episode, I'm 3 episodes in. Last night's episode, Max Greenfield.
Yeah.
He looked like he didn't. 5 minutes in, to me, watching, he looked to me like, when can I get eliminated?
Yes.
Because there was a comic to his right named Robbie. I don't know who she is. I've never seen her in my life.
No, she's the first comic out of all of them that they've had. She was brilliant. She was great. She
was really funny and really like just blunt and whatever. Mm-hmm. But he was off put by it to the point where like, I'm here to promote my show. Right? And so I think if we have more uncomfortable pairings like that, it might get cool.
See, my problem with it is I think at an hour it's too long. It needs to be a half an hour. Quick, just cut it all the way down to the bone. Because they're already shooting over an hour's worth of TV show. Because if you watch the point totals, there will be times when suddenly they'll jump, and they cut a joke or two in here.
Well, that doesn't bode well because the jokes that made it in aren't always great. You know what I mean? Like, and some of it's been okay, and some of it
again that says we can trim this down to a half an hour. Lose the talk show segment too, where they ask a question. It's kind of like a little bit of an open ender to allow each contestant to be funny on their own without having to respond to a specific game that.
Well, and also they get their why am I here kind of thing in, the why I was. I think it has potential to be good. I think most of the funny stuff that I'm laughing at right now at this point is her either reacting to the people, because Max Greenfield looks so. I don't know, Rich. Have you ever seen anybody that did not want to be somewhere? So, that's how I felt. Like he was. Yeah. He looked like I don't know what the fuck this woman next to me is going to say, and I am a star of a sitcom. I can't possibly be here anymore. Do you know what I mean?
I like though when he started to just kind of like that undermining thing he did, where they were asking.
The whole thing where it was like kill the vibe, and he's like, no,
nice and normal.
That turtle's great. No, I'm not going to kill the vibe, but that's the game. I don't care. Mazel. That was good.
I really liked
that was really funny. That was him because it was him rebelling. I also like that she took away points because you're undermining me. I think she's great. I think she has potential.
And I feel she's pretty loose for her first week on this. I was thinking about possibly reviewing the whole first week once it ended. Tonight. At some point over the weekend on Film Buff. Hadn't quite decided yet. It might be a case of, do I have time to sit down for an hour or two and write?
I am enjoying it. I'm not
But
gonna.
yeah,
I'm enjoying
I've made it
it,
a point
and
to watch each episode so far.
it is
as
good
a
to
fan
have
of the old-
hashtag wars back.
Yeah.
I realized how much I missed hashtag wars.
That was a nice warm friend. I was like, oh, good to see you.
Oh, and it was just easier to do it on Threads, so I just joined Threads. So I'm JW the Movie Guy in Threads, if anybody wants to know. What are they doing? Ruin a Kid's Book, right? That was last night's was Ruin a Kid's Book. I think I had the winner. I'm not going to win, but I think I have a winner. I had two that I really liked. So my Ruin a Kid's Book was Lyle Pedophile. And then Good Night Soon instead of Good Night Moon. And of course, that's written by Bill Cosby.
Oh, yeah.
It's not old. It's not too soon, Rich. We're fine. We're all adults here. But, we'll see what happens.
I like the first one better, to be honest.
Yeah, Lyle Pedophiles, really. Like, that's like, I don't feel like that's a book that everybody would just immediately. I think everybody went to Cat in a Hat. Everybody was jumping to Dr. Seuss and, you know what I mean? I also, my other one was Amelia Bedelia Storms the Capitol. That was my other one. Because I just found, I just having Amelia Bedelia, like, holding a flag and jumping over a fence would be a great way to ruin a children's book. Plus, I like the Amelia Bedelia books. I'm not going to lie. I've read every single one of those books. There's a book series that has never been adapted properly into a movie or whatever. But anyway, I think it's going well. I like her, so I'll stick with it. I think the overall difference is she's trying to get in jokes because she's a comic and she's not going to just shut that brain off. So she's trying to get in as many jokes as possible. I do like some of the games. Some of the games have worked really well. Some of them are never coming back. You know what I mean? Like, some of them are working well, and some are like, they'll never do the photograph one again, where they were trying to copy
stuff that gets them out from behind the podium. They're
not great. I like the ones where they're voting, like the smash or pass, and it was like Mario or Luigi, and they had to get by either one, and it's like, and it's her joke after that was good. Like, she has a nice through line as a comic that I enjoy, because they're like, the whole through line on the smash or pass, because he's tall.
Yeah.
Like, every single one, she's like, yeah, the correct answer is Luigi, because he's taller than Mario. And every single answer down the line, she would turn to the camera and just go, because he's tall. So it's like, as a short person, I didn't enjoy it, but
she knows how to construct bits.
Yeah, and I think she'll get better at it. And I don't know how long it lasts, but I eventually think that the worst that could come out of it for her is that they end the show, but then they go, hey, would you like to just have a regular talk show now? Would you like to just have a desk and somebody to talk to at 12:30? Max Greenfield would have liked that last night. Just a desk. Just somebody to talk to.
Didn't Max Greenfield do the old show, though?
I think he did, but I don't know. I don't know who the Robbie person was. And again, she was hilarious. I laughed. I had guttural laughter directed at her when she started talking.
The first night, all three of those comics had done multiple installments of the original At Midnight.
Yeah, there was a definite flow to it. And
they felt like they were stacking the deck a little bit to say, okay, we've got some veterans out here, so they know
right.
The
and the second night they had Paul F. Tompkins.
That should help.
The second night they had Paul F. Tompkins, who is a can't miss. Yeah, he can't he showed up dressed like a leprechaun. It was fantastic. And he was really good, and it was like he had really sad bits, and I enjoy the show because I feel it's like it's a peer into the mind of a comedy writer, right? And it's also what we're doing every day when we're scrolling. Like, it literally, I don't know what the fuck this stuff is when I'm scrolling through stuff. Like, why has this been made? And that's a little bit of how I feel about ISS this week. But anyway, why was this made?
Nice to bring it all the way back to the
all the way, just nice a button hook, just like improv comedy. You bring everything back. Well, thank you for joining us for a special edition. Although this isn't going to be a special edition, we're going to try to do this every Friday. I don't know if Rich is going to be here every Friday, but I'm going to be here every Friday. And I want to thank everybody for watching today. Go see a movie this weekend. Go see something good. Try to find Godzilla -1, although you should probably wait till next week for Godzilla -1, only because next week, it's first off, do you know what they're calling it? So I looked at my AMs.
Minus color.
Yes. Yeah. I just love saying it.
They didn't just slap a black and white filter or desaturate it either. It looks really good. They really put some thought into.
Oh, I can't wait! I can't wait! If you're gonna wait to see Godzilla -1 is first off one of the best movies of the year, and it also I can't wait for the black and white. Also, I want to point out, Rich and I haven't talked about Godzilla -1 ever, but what I would say to you is my favorite moments were anything that involved making a Godzilla movie into a Jaws movie. So I'm good. I was like, I like Godzilla. I like Jaws. And when you put them together, it's like a fucking Oreo. It's beautiful. It's just,
oh yeah. I went back and saw it earlier this week. It's just, I wanted to see it one more time on the big screen.
And the interesting thing is, it's the first Godzilla movie you care about the humans. Care about the humans as much as the big guy.
Pretty much.
But that sequence with the boat, I don't know that they're ever going to get any better than just the utter terror of driving a tugboat while Godzilla's head is following you.
Oof.
Fucking terrifying, because he could just hop up out of the water at any moment and just fucking eat everything. So it's imagine if the Jaws shark had legs. Jesus. But anyway, have a great weekend. Go see a movie. Watch movies. There's a lot of stuff on. A lot of streaming stuff. There's plenty to watch. We have plenty of entertainment to keep everybody warm on a cold winter evening up east, and even in Florida, it's been in the 50s the last 2 days. I don't know what we'll do with this global warming. It's been so cold. You can't shovel sunshine. Anyway, have a great weekend. Everybody have a great week. Go see a movie. Thanks for joining us. Oh, actually, I'm sorry. Before we go, hold on. Shit.
What?
We gotta talk about stuff. We have a Monday show coming up. Rich and I have a Monday show. We're doing this little ditty right here. This movie called The Love Witch. That's on Monday night at 10 o'clock with our good friend Natasha Bogutsky joining us, causing trouble. You can also find me on Tuesday nights. Loud and Nerdy will be live again this week. And then we have other things. We have MegaCon coming up February 1st to the 4th. We're going to be all over MegaCon. We have, let's see, what else? We have, if you are a creative and you have a new indie movie trailer or commercial, email it to us. We'll play it on an upcoming Indie Escape Network show free. We also have the amazing NEPA Comic-Con coming up, a Nerd Utopia, February 17th and 18th, hosted at the Moon Ballroom, which is right across the street from the Circle Drive-In. So you got a lot of stuff coming up, and we also have Hong Kong coming up. So many things coming up. Keep track. We might have a couple new shows coming up on the Indie Escape Network as well. But thank you for joining us today. Stay out of trouble. Thank you for coming, Rich. I'll talk to you guys later. And we'll see everybody on Monday night for The Love Witch, which I've never seen. 2 witches there. Anyway, have a great night. Have a great weekend. We'll see everybody Monday.